No seats, no parking spots out there. This is awesome. Our inspiring quote for today is by Ernest Holmes. We should expand our thought until it realizes all good, and then cut right through all that appears to be and use this almighty power for definite purposes. Join me in using the almighty power within to expand ourselves by saying together, with deep conviction that life is good and for me, I throw myself with complete abandon into the limitless sea of receptivity, allowing myself to be a perfect reflection of the flawless, radiant brilliance of spirit within. Yeah. Oh, the energy is high today. So, my friends, we came into this beautiful experience, this incarnation called life, to shine like a diamond. To shine like a diamond. And yet what's happened along the way of life and living, we immersed ourselves in this thing called human consciousness with its ideas of separation, the illusion of separation. And so along the way, we have, to a certain extent, I guess you could call it, been covered by a shell. Like when you first see, Dan, do you have that photo of, when you look at a big rock that's mined from the so-called gold mines, there's a solid rock. And yet within that rock is a radiant diamond. So we could think of all of that stuff that's covering up the light as the grit and grind of being part of this human consciousness. So follow me in a moment. Will you do this with me? Let's brush off your shoulders. We're brushing away the ideas of separation and all of the fear and doubt and judgment and resentment and all that stuff that goes with it. Woo! All right. It feels lighter in here already. So today we're going to be talking about this idea of the diamond and the 4 C's of rating diamond quality, which is cut, clarity, color, and carat. And using all of these concepts, I love using metaphors or analogies in order to help us deepen into the principles that allow us to shine our lights more brightly. So that's what our adventure is about this month. Sound good? Yes. All right. So today is about the cut. And so point number 1, cutting away the illusion of separation lets our light shine. Very simple. So there was a man by the name of Marcel Tolkowski who created a mathematical formula for cutting diamonds in order to maximize the brilliance, the quality, and also with the least amount of waste. And that became known as and this is back in 1919, and that became known as the American standard for cutting diamonds. And that became a standard used worldwide. So, in many ways, our life journey is just like that. It's about how do we maximize the quality and the brilliance and have with the least amount of waste. No, we want to cut away all the stuff that gets in the way, but we don't want to cut away everything, just the stuff that doesn't serve us. Tama Keeves said so brilliantly, "Who you think you are is a belief to be undone." Who you think you are is a belief to be undone. Well, I don't know how many of you know who Michael Beckwith is. Many probably know who he is. Spiritual leader of Agape International Center of Truth out in California. One of the biggest spiritual communities, centers, such as we are in the New Thought world. thousands and thousands and thousands of members. And many don't know, though, that his start on this journey. And what happened was, back when he was in college, he actually put himself through college by selling pot, believe it or not. And he was so good at it. He was so good at it that he had people working for him, drug dealers working for him all over the country in all the major cities. He was making thousands and thousands of dollars. And then he had a spiritual awakening in the midst of all of this. He had a dream that he died. And when he woke up, a huge transformation had taken place in him. He actually opened his eyes, looked around, and the world appeared completely differently to him. He said he felt like he was in tune with what he called love beauty. He was in tune with love beauty, his word for God. So shortly after that, he was arrested. And however, it was really interesting because he was in this state of unity and oneness. He talked about he had this incredible peace about him, even though he was, going to court and for, on these big charges. And so as he stood before the judge, he felt a great sense of peace. And the judge looked at him and he said, "If I suspend your sentence, will you promise me that you will never show up in court again?" And he said, "Yes, Your Honor." And his spiritual journey continued to unfold. So, wow, what a powerful example of things being cut away in consciousness, and not only in consciousness, but in lifestyle, such that this man could then begin to shine his light in the most magnificent way that he continues to do to this day. So, where are you holding onto something that is dimming your light? What is it in you that needs to be cut away so that you can more fully shine your light? The second point. Cuts are our apprenticeship in oneness, our eternal purpose. So what is an apprentice anyway? An apprentice is one who learns from a master. Well, guess what? Look all around you. Everyone that you come into contact with is the master that's teaching you. Your family, your friends, the person that cuts you off in traffic. You name it. These are all spiritual masters who are offering you an opportunity to look at what your buttons are. Because those buttons that get pushed, those reactions that we have, are tied into some form of a belief in separation, a separation from our good, a separation from God. The same thing, our good, our God, separation. So one of the things that we do here is we teach a form of prayer, an affirmative form of prayer that comes from this place of oneness consciousness. We are actually learning to, we call it, treat our minds to observe and to see life and to experience life from this place of oneness. And the first two steps go like this. God is all there is. That's step number one. God is all there is. And step number two is, I am one with God. Because if God is all there is, I have to be one with God. And it's interesting because that second step is often the one that we have the most challenge with, isn't it? Really, truly staying steady with that awareness that we are one with God. It means owning our power. We are owning the power of creation that's been given to us by the great all that is, the presence of the divine. We are given this amazing gift, and yet how often do we forget that and misuse it? And one of the ways that we misuse it is by judging others, which is not practicing oneness. It's just not. And so someone said to the great teacher from India, Bhagwan, how do I stop judging others? And this is what he said. You don't understand. All I see is me. All I see is me. Wow. When we begin to see that all there is one, everyone that we see is another aspect of the one, of me, then we realize that the only answer to anything that comes toward us, or what we see as coming toward us, is love, not judgment. So it's a perspective. Do you see? It's a worldview that needs to shift within us from separation to seeing that all there is God all around us, in us, through us, all around us. And you know, our culture actually models for us and teaches us this thing called judgment, lashing out at others and saying, how dare they treat me this way, right? Well, Reverend Lloyd Strom, one of our New Thought leaders, said, you cannot offend an enlightened being. You cannot offend an enlightened being. So consequently, he said, the fastest track to enlightenment is to allow yourself to be offended by everyone and forgive everyone. Whoa. So this is our apprenticeship, allowing ourselves to be offended. I mean, we're going to be anyway, right? I mean, this is kind of part of the journey. And practicing forgiveness, remembering, if we can kind of remember that this is just part of the journey, this is part of our apprenticeship, then we can kind of make it into a game instead of getting so serious about it when something offends us. We can say, oh, great, another opportunity to forgive. Oh, how cool is that? So unforgiveness then dims our light, any type of ill feelings toward other people. And forgiveness then returns us back to the truth of who we are, which is the presence of love, the presence of light. Lloyd Strom says, if you can't forgive those who offend you, you have no right to speak of love. Pretty powerful. Point number 3. Life will polish you whether you like it or not. That's right. So think of raw geodes when they throw them into those tumblers. Anybody ever see them do that? Yeah, the tumblers, and it's like a big rock, and it turns out like all these beautiful semi-precious stones. So how often have you felt like you've been in a tumbler of life? Anybody? So think of it this way. The universe is shaking you awake and helping to chip away all of that stuff that doesn't serve you so that you can shine your light. I want to read something to you that is so inspiring. This is by Senator Cory Booker, a senator from New Jersey. Listen to this. This man really has it together. I mean, listen to this. He said, when they criticize you, love them for teaching you humility. This is a senator, keep in mind. When they heap scorn upon you, love them for helping you discover resiliency. When they doubt you, love them for giving your dreams greater courage. When they point out your faults, love them for their accuracy. Yeah, how do you like that one, huh? When they wound you, love them for showing you the capacity to forgive. When they try to stop you, love them for making your resolve stronger. When they cast you into darkness, love them for helping you to discover your inextinguishable light. I'm going to read that one again. When they cast you into darkness, love them for helping you discover your inextinguishable light. And when you stand victorious, now this, listen to this. When you stand victorious, when your love has conquered the impossible challenge, invite them to stand with you so they too can see love's power and possibility. And when you stand victorious, when your love has conquered the impossible challenge, invite them to stand with you so they too can see love's power and possibility. That's oneness. That's oneness consciousness. Those are the words of a master. There was a movie some time ago that you may remember or you may not that was called The Nun Story. In it, Audrey Hepburn played a young woman who had decided to go to the convent and become a nun, and her father went with her. And they met with the Mother Superior, and the Mother Superior had a conversation with them and walked away. And as she was walking away, Audrey's father looked to her and said that this woman is the living rule. She's the living rule. That's an example of the living rule. To which Audrey says, "What is a living rule?" And he said, "Well, if all of the churches and convents burned down and if all the scriptures were destroyed, her actions would still demonstrate our spiritual principles." That's how I want to live my life. I choose, my intention is, to the greatest extent possible, to live these spiritual principles, to truly embrace this path of oneness, this apprenticeship of oneness. How about you? What is your heart asking you to do? Point number 4. The inner call to contribute to the greater good is what it's ultimately all about. So again, cutting away all that dims our light prepares us to fulfill our higher purpose. And each one of us has our own unique higher purpose, each one as valuable as the next. It could be the smile that you give someone. It could be the loving action of service that you offer. It could be anything. However, I'd like to share with you an inspiring story. Do you want to hear this one? I read this online, and I've got to fit this into my talk somehow because this is so amazing. So it's about Lynn Twist. Anybody aware of who Lynn Twist is? Amazing woman. Well, back in ministry school, one of our required readings was her book called The Soul of Money. And I found out that she's been doing a whole lot more than what she was doing at that time when I read that book. But anyway, in 1977, while she had a young family, 1977, she had a young family, she took on this thing called the Hunger Project. The Hunger Project. And what happened was she became an expert at raising money for causes like this. Huge transformational causes. This was her first one. She raised over $2 billion, recruited over 200,000 people to be part of this as volunteers all over the world. And 40,000 of those volunteers were in Bangladesh alone. Have you noticed you haven't heard much about Bangladesh recently? The Hunger Project put people into these villages to help them learn how to vision, to help them learn to become self-sustainable, to create their own livelihoods. And that continued on for quite a few years, really transforming the planet in really big ways. And then, and so what she said is she said, I, I learned a lot about the soul of money, how to become an expert fundraiser for the transformational causes that matter to me. And she also said that transformation became the water I wanted to swim in for the rest of my life. Isn't that beautiful? So in 1995, so almost 20 years later, Lynn decided to stop deforestation of the rainforests by teaching it to the natives themselves, the Akwar people, Akwar tribe. So she traveled with her husband Bill and 10 others to South America to meet with the leaders of the Akwar tribe to teach them how to do this. And so they formed something called the Pachamama Alliance. Anybody heard of that? The Pachamama Alliance back in 1995. So 12 of them, a group of 12 of them, and working with the Akwar people in 5 years, preserved the entire region from oil companies, mining companies, lumber mills, and every other type of extractive industry that had pillaged them in the past. So, did any of you know that all of this was going on? It's amazing how these things don't make the news for some reason. So she said, after a number of years of these preservation efforts, nothing has happened to encroach on these lands. Nothing. A huge accomplishment. The Pachamama Alliance now works in 82 countries. 82 countries they're working in to change the old dream of consumptive acquisition to a new dream that is based on a new dream of environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, and socially just human presence on the planet. That's their vision, and they're working it. And then here's the interesting thing. This goes back to contribution that I was talking about earlier. Lynn Twist states that people want to make a difference with their life. That is the most profound way to live, she says. That is what everybody longs for more than anything else. And she says, even when their most basic needs are not being met. Anybody ever heard of the hierarchy of needs by Maslow? And he talks about you've got to take care of food and shelter, all of these basic needs before you can do the others. Well, Lynn said that's not true. When she was in Bangladesh, she gave examples of people who had not had any shelter, had not had a meal for 3 days, and still were completely devoted to making a difference with their lives. So, what does that tell you? I know what it tells me is that the presence of love, the presence of wanting to serve one another is so much a part of our lives that it calls for expression, whatever your unique way is. We have that impulse to serve within us. So here's the deal. The cuts in our lives, those things that annoy the heck out of us, all of the ways in which our way of being is not serving us, all of that hard shell of belief structure based on the illusion of separation, all of that is meant to be cut away. And when we cooperate with that process through forgiveness, through keeping our eye on our vision, that vision that pulls us forward, what are we doing? We are allowing ourselves to shine like a diamond, to be that brilliant, luminous light that we are in truth. So I just feel so grateful for this, and I invite all of us to turn within in this moment in prayer, knowing that all there is the one light, the presence of God, the presence of the divine, the infinite, all that is. And that this life is my life. This life is the life of each and every one of us. We, in essence and in truth, are the light of the divine. We are that radiant brilliance of love itself. And so I know in this very moment that each of us are renewed and strengthened on our path so that we can stand in that light, to be that light no matter what comes our way, and to realize that we are all on an apprenticeship of oneness, an apprenticeship of love, an apprenticeship of light. And so we allow all that does not serve us to be cut away so that we may be the brilliant diamonds of spirit that we are meant to be. I'm so grateful for this truth. I'm so grateful for the heart and soul of each unique, individualized expression of the divine here in this room and on this planet. And I know that together we are that difference. We are making that difference that we are here to make on this planet, here and now, just by being who we are in truth. So with great joy, I release this word into the universal law of mind. I let it go, I let God, and invite us with great enthusiasm to say, yes, and so it is.